first and foremost, I want to thank the Chamber and Sandy for taking time to put this on. What a great event. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of different relatively local institutions, and I think it's just fabulous to see kind of this is on a regular basis. You have local businesses supporting the Chamber, so thank you. How many people in here operate a company-sponsored retirement plan, out of curiosity? None, okay. I'd love to learn, why don't you have a retirement plan for your business?
Well, they may have one, but they may not be the ones
Okay.
who run it.
Gotcha. So, are you guys participating in a plan?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So mainly not as far as business ownership, but just a participant. Great. Okay. Carson mentioned he's a wealth strategist. Really what I'm here today is talk about our exciting new partnership with the Chamber. So my role in this big picture is really to explain who Vestwell is, how we partner with organizations like the Chamber, and what that means for any member, right? So we can talk a little bit about kind of details, etc. I'm not a presentation guy normally, but I had this one, I built it last night, and I said with a beautiful screen like this, it'd be a shame not to have something up there. So think a little bit about, from a perspective of a business owner with this presentation. So think, what are things that are important, right? Why do we want to offer a retirement plan, right? Who is Vestwell, right? I think that's important so everybody feels comfortable, right? It's not necessarily a household name, somewhat intentional, and we'll explain that. And then I'm also going to show you some of the resources that the Chamber and Vestwell have built that are readily available for this. So Carson talked a little bit about them, but we can jump in. So from a goal standpoint, right, I think it's important. I've been in the retirement plan related industry for about 15 years. I've worked with, honestly, probably about 3,000 small businesses in that time. It's important to understand, why do people want a retirement plan? So there are two categories. First is from the employee's perspective, right? And number one is my employer investing in my future, right? Also, comparison of the competitive landscape. The ability to make your employee feel comfortable with where you're at, right? From a business owner or business operational standpoint, there are a few different reasons why businesses set them up. Carson touched on a little bit about tax deductibility, right? But I would actually, well, that's hugely important and a hugely powerful tool. I would actually say the number one in talking to all these small businesses is recruitment and retention of talent, right? Touched on that with Sandy's question. Oftentimes, and the reason I asked, hey, do you run a plan, right, is that the number one reason we hear why people don't set up a plan is they think it's too costly, one, and two, administrative burden. Hopefully we have a solution that helps with that, and I'll explain as we kind of evolve in our conversation. So, quick hit on Vestwell. I want to jump to this slide. So, Vestwell, at its core, is a technology company. A couple of things about what we do. First and foremost, our founder has run and sold and done a few technology companies over the years. The creation of the organization came out of him trying to set up a plan for his own business. In the marketplace, until rather recently, most of the technology powering retirement plans is 20 to 40 years old. I used to work for a multi-trillion-dollar asset manager in the retirement plan space. I had to log into a DOS-based system to tell anything about a particular retirement plan. It's scary, if you think about it. We built our own system. It's all cloud-based, cloud native, and made our focus to be extremely cost efficient and easy for businesses to run a plan. We'll talk a little bit about that, what that means. But Vestwell at its entity is a technology company, right? We have, you can see on the bottom right, a lot of key partners in this space. These numbers are a little dated. We actually are over 500,000 small businesses that we partner with, and 1.2 million individual savers on the platform. And it's about $35 billion in savings. Interesting, I was doing a little research, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the other businesses that we happen to be in. But one of them is, a lot of states are now mandating that small businesses offer a retirement plan to their employees. It's a great thing holistically. Vestwell also partners at the state level to offer these. Colorado has one, Nevada just launched one. We operate both of those plans. We also already partner with the state of New Mexico in a very specific type of plan for investments related to individuals with disabilities. It's called the ABLE plan. So if you go to the Treasurer's office, you look at that plan, you'll see Vestwell's information in there. Whole nother topic, one that's near and dear to my heart, but that's for another time, another place. That being said, I want to show some of the resources available to members of the chamber, right, and what that looks like from our perspective. Mentioned we're a technology company. I'll walk through a few different things and what that looks like, right? But know that we are have full functioning websites for each individual saver, for the employer, any financial advisor if you choose to partner with them, a full functioning app as well. It's one of my one of our most recent updates that I find very helpful is that we're actually the first retirement plan provider to create technology to translate all of our information to multiple languages. The key about it is we programmed our website in a way to be able to program in individual languages at its core, so you're not using a Google Translate. Very frustrating if English isn't your first language, because not always does our lingo one-for-one translate to Spanish, for instance. We just launched this a couple weeks ago. Started in the beginning of the year with about 4 or 5 languages. A couple weeks ago we rolled it out. We're north of 20 different languages. It's as simple as clicking a button on the website. Hugely important for employers to be able to serve all of their employees, right? Yes?
May I ask?
Sure.
So, with our plan, when someone fills out the form for information,
Yep.
and they sign up, so that means on the employer portal, they'll be able to offer that to their employees right now, different languages?
Yep. So I'll show that to you. So there's a few steps between here and there, Sandy, right? But I'll show you what the information that Sandy's referring to, et cetera, what that looks like. One of the things that I mentioned, and Carson touched on a little bit, is that we take a lot of responsibility on with every single plan that we work with. So Vestwell as an entity provides an additional level of protection, which is a fiduciary protection. I won't bore you with all the different nomenclatures, the tax codes, etc. But look at that plan administration piece. You'll see the numbers 316 there. That means that we as an entity, if we're functioning as the administrator of the plan, are going to take responsibility and sign on the dotted line to deliver all notices to every employee, do all the testing, and sign and file the organization's tax filing, which is required when you run a qualified plan. We talked a little bit earlier about what were the hurdles in this space, and one of them being administration. So that's huge, right? And we do it at a very cost-effective level, which we'll talk about too. Outlining that right there, summary plan descriptions, filing the 5500 form. So talked a little bit about 2 buckets of tax implications with the retirement plan. I categorize it first as tax credits. I'll get into that in a moment and show you a calculator we have for business owners. And then Carson talked a little bit about tax deductibility. So that means that any employer contribution made by the business for its employees is tax deductible to the business. There is also an additional benefit. Any administrative costs paid for by the business on behalf of the employees is also deductible as a benefit expense. So you really get an extremely powerful tool in using any type of qualified plan. for your employees. So, one of the ways that we make things easier for people is that we actually have, it's now 190 different payroll integrations that our technology has enabled. You see a lot of different companies here. This is just a kind of a high level example, but again, you name it, we probably have some form of an integration. What does that mean to the business owner or the HR professional running the plan? Less manual work. The second, right, for instance, if you use Gusto, the second they submit payroll, that information is immediately translated through secure file transfer to our system. So we know every single person's employee contribution. We also, in most cases, have a return file so that if an employee goes in and makes a change, the next time they run it in the Gusto payroll system, in my example, that information is already in their system. So if somebody says, I don't want to save 5% of my salary anymore, I want to save 10%, they don't have to go check, compare, etc. It makes it very easy for people to operate a plan. So this is our pricing structure available on the Chamber website. So mainly, I'll talk a little bit about record keeping only, but let's focus on the plus. This means that Vestwell is the provider. Via the Chamber, this is a discounted rate. The base fee is $165 a month to run a plan. About $2,000 per year. That's for the business. Complete cost to the business, all in. We then charge a per participant fee, $8 per active participant with a balance per month. That $8 fee can be assessed to either the individual employee or paid for by the business. Extremely cost effective. Questions there? If there is a complicated or complex design, oftentimes, or sometimes I should say, organizations will use an outside, what's called third-party administrator. That's where we would look for a record keeping. And that means that third-party administrator, there are a bunch of local organizations, a ton of them here in New Mexico that I work with as well, would handle the plan document, compliance testing, and year-end filings for the business. So it's a different option, right? All that to say, flexibility in how it's designed. I'm going to jump to the Chamber website to show everybody what that looks like. So, I'll back up here. On the Los Alamos Chamber website, you'll see this heading here on 401k. You click on that, it takes to a microsite that we built in partnership with Los Alamos Chamber. So there are a few things here I'll point out, right? The first of which is the information will be co-branded at all times. The second of which is contact information. So if anyone has a question, right, or wants to talk more about options, even if it's somebody outside of this room, you fill out this information, it comes to us, right? Some updated numbers there. Talks a little bit about what we do, has the pricing. But most importantly, we talked a little bit about tax credit calculator. So this is related to a specific law called Secure Act 2.0. Secure Act 2.0 is basically designed to encourage small businesses to establish plans, right? It all grows out of a significant savings gap. If you look at statistics, right, it's scary the small percentage of people in the U.S. that are ready to retire based on what they have saved. It's really deep philosophical alignment to what we do, right? Offering an easily administrative plan at a very low cost relative to the marketplace. So with Secure 2.0, there are very specific rules and regulations around it, but we've customize and build this calculator for a business owner to come in here and see what that looks like. This is all part of the chamber website as shown. The way that the tax law is set up is that there are specifics based on earnings and how many employees you have, etc. And what the credit would be. So in this scenario, we customize this based on the inputs, right? So top of the screen, right, based on the 15 people plus the base fee that we discussed, we're saying our annual cost with the participant fee is about $2,600. The green line there, depending upon how you design the plan, shows what the federal government will give you a dollar for dollar tax credit for in the first 3 years of running the plan. Interpretation of this is that you will run a plan for the first 3 years without any cost out of pocket. You get a dollar for dollar tax credit from the federal government for that. Outside of that, keep in mind, I mentioned difference between tax credit and tax deductibility, right? This is just the cost of the plan, you're getting a dollar for dollar credit. You're also getting the powerful tool to deduct any type of employer credits. So one of the reasons that we love partnering with local organizations to encourage people to set this up to help their employees long term. I'll stop there. What questions?
It's hard to think of a reason not to start a plan when it's gonna be
Right.
free for the first
Right.
3 years.
Right.
And then after that, it's still gonna be in the, what, 2,000 a year?
Right. And also keep in mind, once you get past the credit phase, if you choose as a business owner to pay that $2,600, that's also tax deductible past the credit, right? Because it's a benefit expense, because you're offering that benefit to your employees. So that's a separate piece, but I think the power of the, current legislation that allows for this dollar for dollar tax credit is huge, right, for small business owners. I want to make sure I put a caveat in that a 401k is not for every business. Let's be clear, right? What I specialize in and what Vestwell specializes in are 401ks and 403bs, what are considered qualified in the IRS's term, right? Doesn't mean that a sole practitioner, it may make more sense to set up a solo 401k for one person or a SEP IRA. There's all these different plan types. I think one of Carson's slides touched on it. But know that it is a powerful tool, right? And there is, benefits, but it has to make sense for the individual, right?
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
You said a lot of people are not ready to retire with their savings. So aside from tax benefits, tax credits, super basic question, but all these 401k or STEP plans that are within that umbrella, what are the basic benefits? Is there like a bigger, does the money grow faster, there's a bigger percentage, or it's being invested in mutual funds, or how does it work?
Yeah, great question. Complicated answer, I'll try to simplify.
Okay.
Because depending upon the plan type, you saw those different columns, the amount that the IRS allows somebody to put in is varied based on what they select. Okay. Those are laws, statutory, and they adjust for inflation. In a 401k, what's considered a defined contribution qualified plan, the total maximum that can go into a plan varies from year to year, but it's about $70,000 that you can put away each year. Now, does everyone achieve that? Likely not, because it's a combination of somebody's salary deferral, so the money from their paid, and the employer contributions from the employer, right? So, I mentioned that because part of your question was what's the benefit to, in essence, what I'm saying is qualified plan 401k, higher amount can go in than other plans, right? So that's one benefit. Depending upon how you choose to put that money in, right, you have the ability to benefit from either that money that you're putting away from your pay in being tax deductible to you personally, right? Or if you choose to go Roth, grows tax-free in essence, right? So you have tax benefits on top of the ability to put more money away, right? All of these plans, you have the choice in how it's invested, right? The idea is obviously to have sustainable, long-term, prudent growth, right? The power of that is immense over a career of 30, 40 years, right? So while you may have a contribution over 10 years of, say, $100,000, that very well in 20, 30 years could be $400,000 in value, right? Based on the investments that are selected. So yeah, I think that answer your question, right? Access to investments, growth over time, higher ability to put higher amounts in to the plan, and specifically with a 401k, variability in how the money goes in, customized to you, right? So post-tax, pre-tax, if you are an owner of a business, does it make sense to do it as a company contribution? All that stuff. So all that to say, right, if these conversations come up, you have resources associated now with the chamber, right? Happy to business owners talk about plan design and features and functionality and stuff in that world. Carson is happy to answer any questions directly related to, hey, this is my situation, right? And this is what I'm looking to do. So if I summarize it right, think of my role in the chamber is to be here as support from a plan standpoint, but also be able to explain the mechanism in order to get there with the retirement plan. So,
Thank you.
yeah. What else?
Any other questions for Randy or Carson?
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Randy. I'd also like to thank Jean Gendreau of Pack 8. She is recording this so that we can upload it into our member information center. And if you're not familiar how to access that, just stop by the chamber. We'll help you learn how to do that and reset. So thank you for coming this morning. Hope you enjoyed our program. Reach out to Carson. I think you have his information on the handout. And have a great rest of the month. Thank you.
Thank you.